英語となっております。同時通訳レシーバーは受付で配布されておりますので、ご利用の方は受付でお取りくださいませ。それではイベント開始まで今しばらくお待ちくださいませ。Before event starts, I would like to make some request and announcement. Please turn off your mobile phone or set it to silent mode during the seminar. Eating and drinking are prohibited inside this auditorium. Simultaneous interpretation between Japanese and English will be provided during the event. Channel 1 is Japanese and Channel 2 is English. Simultaneous interpretation receiver is provided at the reception desk. Thank you very much for your cooperation. We will start the event shortly. 前方もしくはサイドのお席におかけくださいませ。 We will start the event shortly. まもなくセミナーを開始いたします。少々お待ちくださいませ。Thank you for your participation to the event on Electronic Component Manufacturing Scheme, ECMS today. 皆様、本日は電子部品製造スキームセミナーへご参加いただきまして誠にありがとうございます。To begin today's event, may I invite His Excellency, Mr. Shibi George, Ambassador of India to Japan to give inaugural remarks. 本日のイベントを始めるにあたり、駐日インド大使シビ・ジョージ閣下より開会ご挨拶をいただきます。
Good afternoon, everybody. Shri S. Krishnan, Secretary Meiti, Government of India, Mr. Kazuya Nakajo, Executive Vice President of JETRO, Mrs. Gitanjali Vikram Kirloskar, Chairperson and MD, Kirloskar Systems Private Limited, who is leading a CII delegation now here, Mr. Niroj Kumar, Director Meiti, Government of India, Mr. Raju Goyal, Secretary General, Electronics Industries Association of India, Mr. Nikit Popley, Partner KPMG, Mr. Kenji Sugino, Secretary General of JCCII, dignitaries, industry leaders, friends from the Japanese electronics sector, a good afternoon again. It's my privilege to address this distinguished gathering today. We stand at the crossroads of an immense opportunity, an opportunity that can define the electronics landscape for both India and Japan. I'm very happy that we have a CII delegation also participating today in this event. I congratulate the organizers who has taken the initiative in doing this event with the embassy. As trusted partners and friends, we, India and Japan, have time and again demonstrated how synergy between our two nations can lead to impactful outcomes. Today, I wish to introduce one such opportunity, India's Electronics Component Manufacturing Scheme, ECMS. Very happy that Secretary Meiti himself has joined us online, who would be delivering details of this program, but I would like to cover a bit of it. Over the past decade, India's electronics manufacturing sector has seen tremendous growth. Our domestic electronics production has surged from $23 billion in 2014 to $115 billion in 2024, a compound annual growth of over 17%. Exports too have grown from around $4.5 billion to $29 billion, and that's over 20% growth. And yet, we acknowledge a gap. Most of this growth have been assembly-led. The next leap, therefore, is to strengthen our component ecosystem, and that is precisely what ECMS sets out to achieve. Launched by the Ministry of Electronics, Information and Technology, Meiti, ECMS is a $2.75 billion scheme running for 6 years, starting 2025-26. It offers attractive fiscal incentives, turnover-linked, capex-based, and hybrid across key electronics and sub-assemblies and components. It supports greenfield and brownfield investments with a special emphasis on employment generation and integration into global value chains. For Japan, this is more than just a policy update, it is a strategic opening. We recognize Japan's excellence in precision manufacturing, advanced electronics, and R&D. India offers the scale, the engineering talent, and a rapidly growing consumer and export base. By forming joint ventures with credible Indian partners, Japanese companies can leverage ECMS to establish near-shoring hubs, not only reducing over-dependence on existing supply chains, but also unlocking India's massive domestic and export potential. Let me assure you, India is not just a low-cost alternative. It is a reliable, democratic, and rapidly transforming technology partner. Our goal is clear: $500 billion in electronics manufacturing and $210 billion in exports by 2030. We are positioning India as a global manufacturing and innovation hub, backed by reforms, infrastructure, and a vibrant startup ecosystem. This year, we are particularly happy to note that we are celebrating India-Japan Year of Science, Technology, and Innovation 2025. This fits in very well within that larger picture. From high-density interconnect PCBs to lithium-ion cells, multi-layer boards, camera modules, and enclosures, a wide array of components are now eligible under ECMS with incentives of up to 25%. We invite our Japanese enterprises, OEMs, ODMs, and capital equipment providers to explore these sectors. Application for ECMs are open from 1st of May this year with a dedicated online portal, and approvals will be rolled out swiftly. If you face any difficulties, please contact the embassy. We would be very happy to assist. I again welcome each one of you who are present here, particularly also the CII delegation who has come here. We had a good interactive session in the morning. We have a target. A target is to expand the numbers in our engagement. We have everything right. We have excellent political relationship, excellent business relationship, excellent defense and security relationship, and of course, great people-to-people connect. What we need to address is the numbers. I would like to have more Japanese companies to be present in India. We have 1,500 Japanese companies. These are 1,500 success stories. I would like these success stories to reach every corner of Japan, every prefecture, every tier 2 and tier 3 cities of Japan, so that we would be able to make a quantum leap, a quantum jump in our relationship, also in business engagement. So once again, I welcome each one of you to this event. I thank everyone for joining us. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you, sir, for your remarks. May I request Mr. S. Krishnan, Secretary, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, MEITI, to make a remark on electronic components manufacturing scheme. He will join virtually. Please see the screen. 続きまして、インド電子情報技術省事務次官 S. クリシュナン様より電子部品製造スキームについてのご挨拶をいただきます。オンラインでのご登壇となりますので、スクリーンをご覧くださいませ。
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon to all of you in Tokyo who are assembled at the Indian Embassy Auditorium for this seminar on electronics component manufacturing scheme. Let me at the outset thank the Indian Embassy and specifically His Excellency Ambassador Mr. C.B. George for having hosted this event. This is an event of significance for the Government of India and specifically for the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology as we launch a new program to deepen the electronics value chain here in India. And let me explain why from both a global context and otherwise this is an extremely important initiative. I think we are well aware that electronics today is possibly the largest single manufacturing sector in the globe, and it forms an important part of the value chain in practically every industry. It forms an important part of the automotive industry. It forms an important part of the medical electronics industry. It forms an important part of many other industries in addition to being a very key element of IT hardware manufacture, and of course all the other instruments that we use on practically a day-to-day basis, including our mobile phones and everything else. It was pointed out that about $135 billion is the value of electronics production in India today. Almost about 45% of that is actually mobile phones. And what has been remarkable is that 10 years ago, we were importing practically 75% of the mobile phones that we required in the country, and today we are in a position to actually export, and we are the second largest mobile handset manufacturers in the world, and practically the entire Indian demand is met by manufacture within the country. Now, this is significant and important for a number of reasons, because I think what we realize in modern day geopolitics is that we need a mechanism whereby the supply of electronics comes from trusted sources from across the world and is not confined to just one or two geopolitical locations. There needs to be a diversification of the electronics value chain, and there needs to be sourcing from safe and trusted jurisdictions where you can rely on a lot of the electronics that get supplied. And this is where I think India and Japan have a considerable scope for synergistic relations in this particular space. India and Japan's relations have never been troubled either by history or by geography, and we've got one of the most trusted geopolitical and strategic relationships, which was already pointed out by the ambassador. And it is in that context that as we approach further deepening of the electronics value chain in India, we need trusted partners like Japan to work with us so that globally we become a force for the good. And now, just to give you what India's own approach to electronics manufacture has been, I think it is partly inspired by the message of, say, someone like Kautilya, who wrote the Arthashastra almost about 2,500 years ago. What he basically said is that you need to start from the peripheries and then attack the core. If you look at the electronics manufacturing value chain, at one end is the assembly of the finished products. That is what gives you scale in today's world. That is what enables you to manufacture at scale. And once you have a presence in the assembly part of the manufacture, then you move up the value chain. At the other end of the electronics value chain is really the semiconductor industry, which is so critical, and semiconductors being part of practically every electronics goods that are manufactured in the world, and therefore these are the two ends of what needed to happen. So in the first phase of the electronics journey for India, we had the production-linked incentive schemes intended for large-scale electronics manufacture, which were intended to achieve scale, which is where the success has happened in, say, the mobile phone ecosystem. And currently we are attempting to do it in the IT hardware area, the consumer electronics area, and in the auto electronics area as well. So that is at one end of the system. Likewise, in the India Semiconductor Mission, which has also been hugely successful, we've attempted to address India's presence in the semiconductor area, an ambition which has been almost 6 or 7 decades in the making. And finally, we have a foothold in the semiconductor space. In between these two peripheral areas of semiconductor manufacture and the final assembly of electronics goods lies component manufacture, which becomes an extremely significant area as well. And that is the direction in which we are attempting to move. Today, the overall value addition which takes place in India in the in the electronics sector is roughly about 20%. It is only recently that many companies have breached the 20% mark of value addition for electronics manufacture in India. Now, this is a significant achievement. It is also significant because electronics is a global value chain. And as I pointed out, we need a trusted value chain, and no country in the world today has more than about 40% or so of the overall value chain being manufactured within the country. Even the largest electronics manufacturing country in the world actually manufactures only about 40% of the overall value addition within the country. The value addition is limited to about 40% of it. Therefore, all of us across the globe are dependent on global value chains for electronics, and that is where the geopolitical significance of having a diversified value chain becomes that much more significant. And this is something we learned even during the COVID pandemic. And that has been India's attempt in the next phase. And that is what the electronic component manufacturing scheme attempts to achieve. I wanted to put down this strategic goal, this overall vision that India has. The details of the scheme is something my colleagues will explain. It has sort of been evolved a little differently from the production-linked incentive schemes. It involves a number of different types of incentives based on the extent of investment which is needed in each of the subsectors there. And also, it is designed in such a way, it is extremely focused and very, very focused on a limited set of components which we believe we can achieve global scale in India, and where we can support existing firms manufacturing similar products and similar components in other locations where they want to locate to India for a number of cost and other advantages. And that is something that India can support through the electronics component manufacture scheme. So this is the broad goal with which the scheme has been designed and formulated. This is the intent with which it has been designed and formulated as something that we can do for the globe from India, and something that we can do for all our trusted partners across the world. And that is how this entire scheme has been designed. It is already open, and we've already received a large number of applications. At last count, more than about 115 applications and registrations have been received. Actual applications have been received from about 20 companies. More are in the line and waiting to apply. The date for applications is open for another 2 months or so, and there could be a huge opportunity here for companies to come in, and particularly for Japanese companies which have already been extremely successful in India, including in the electronic space, where they've across the country at different locations, they've established bases. They have been in India for many, many years. They know how to actually do business in India. We have extremely strong Japanese trade institutions in India, whether it is JCCI, whether it is JETRO, a number of them who have been doing business in India and who understand the Indian ecosystem very well. And clearly, this is a space where we can work together. And it's an opportunity for Japanese companies, whether they want to get into a joint venture with an Indian entity and work with them, or whether they want to do it on their own. Both of these opportunities are open. Both of these are areas into which they can venture. And the government of India, and through its various investment promotion arms, including in MeitY itself, the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, and organizations like Invest India and the various state governments, we are very happy to work with them to make sure that we encourage companies to come in and make their investments in India. And I do find that there is also a business delegation from CII present here. There are also other experts who would be able to speak to you about the investment environment and the kind of options which are available. And my colleagues will also detail the various elements of the scheme. So let me once again tell you, there's a much larger strategic objective here, an area, a space where India and Japan can work together effectively to make it happen. And once again, let me thank all those who are assembled here, all those who have helped to organize the event, including the Embassy of India and Japan, JCCI, JETRO, ELSINA, and all our other partners who are working with this in the space. And we look forward to working with you to make sure that we prime this particular program to success. And let me assure you that some of the most successful industrial policy initiatives which have come out of India in recent times, whether it is the PLI scheme or whether it is the India Semiconductor Mission, most of them have been spearheaded by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. And we are very confident that we can support you in making the electronic component manufacturing scheme also a huge success. Let me once again welcome you to India, and let me also tell you that many of the state governments have also mirrored virtually similar incentives to make sure that you have a combination and you have a number of locations within India that you can choose from as well to make your investments, including where either you're already located or where you're willing to or you're looking to diversify your presence within India. I think those possibilities exist. So let me once again welcome you all with open arms to India to either initiate a fresh round of investment or to make further investments in the electronic component manufacturing scheme as well. And we stand ready to support you all the way to make sure that your investment in India, once again, will be an extremely successful investment. Thank you once again for the very patient hearing and joining us this morning, this afternoon on this occasion. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your remarks. Next, I would like to request Mr. Kazuya Nakajo, Executive Vice President, JETRO, to make remarks. 続きまして、JETRO 理事中条和也様よりご挨拶をいただきます。
Co-chair, Japan Council, Confederation of Indian Industry, Chairperson and Managing Director, Kirloskar Systems Pty Limited, Mr. Kenji Sugano, Secretary General, Japan Chamber of Commerce and Industry in India, その他のご登壇者、参加者の皆様、and delegate from the CII to Japan. Welcome to Japan. ご紹介いただきましたJETROの中条でございます。この度のセミナーに合わせの開催におきまして一言ご挨拶をさせていただきます。まず先日のグジャラート州での航空機の事故においてですね、亡くなられた皆様、そして犠牲者の皆様、そしてご家族の皆様にまず哀悼の意を示したいと思います。日本であまり報道されておりませんが、前のグジャラート州の首相
And for us too, we are now for the Japanese to start businesses in the state of Gujarat. So I feel such a great loss. Now on electric and electronic industry, I am sure you are all aware of the situation in India. The income level is now increasing, and there will be even a bigger, greater market, especially in the area of electrics and electronics. We are now, they are practically related to every single sectors and areas. As infrastructure is developing, of course they will need electricity. And as personal consumption increases, there will be more demand for mobile phones, smartphones, and IT and household appliances. And then for the automotives, there are so many electronics components used in automotives. And the speed of the growth is unprecedented. And then we heard from Secretary question about the semiconductor industries. And as for the semiconductors, in the upcoming 5 years, the market size is expected to double. So in India, there is an increasing number of electricity and electronics players. And with the technologies that we have developed in Japan, we are hoping to make even more contributions in India. And Secretary Krishna was very enthusiastic about making this point clear. And then, in fact, that is true. That's exactly what is needed. The government is paying this much incentive in order to attract more companies and industry, and there's a background to this. And now, of course, there is U.S.-China situation that is going on, and then Apple's iPhone production is now being shifted or transferred to India by a large scale. So that means India will have to host the components industries because just with assembly they'll have to increase inputs, so that is not going to help the sophistication of the industry. And then of course we have to consider economic securities. So either internally or by collaborating with the Japanese companies, where they will have to create new electronics component industrial sectors. So that is a part of their national strategy. But then, of course, you might wonder then how we can do it or how we can go about it. In India, income level is increasing and the commodity price is also going up. But right now, the market is not yet a high price market. Prices are still relatively low. So it does yet make a sense to export from Japan. So we need to produce locally in India. And then there are assembly factories plants. So that means we will need manufacturing plants locally in India. And then can we just bring in the equipment and machines and technicians, and can we start production right away? I think that's quite difficult. There are different ways for us to go about. One is to partner with an Indian company. So because of that, this time we are joined by the CII, Confederation of Indian Industry. And then we are inviting the players in electronics industry. And of course, not only that, locally in India, there's ECMS or other prestigious foreign businesses already have a presence in India. And then of course, it is one idea still to go on my own and start business operations in India. And we had a semiconductor mission to India in March, and we visited 3 cities. So we visited local EMSs and electronics businesses industries. And they are already able to produce products at a high precision. So I hope you visit India for once and see for yourself. There are some industrial clusters, and we have our office, and we have 5 offices. So if you can let us know, then we'll support you as much as we can for you to visit these companies or organizations. So please go to India and see for yourself how much potential India has and how capable India is. India now is different from what you might have known in the past. So please experience India yourself. And then today we have Kiroscar-san, and she's here with the delegates and from India. So please use this opportunity to get to know them and feel for yourself. So now I guess that was rather too long, but that is all for my greetings, and thank you very much for coming.
Next, I would like to request Ms. Gitanjali Kirloskar, Co-Chair, CII Japan Council, Chairperson and Managing Director, Kirloskar Systems Private Limited, to make a remarks. 続きまして、インド工業連盟日本委員会共同議長キルラスカルシステム会長兼社長ギタンジェリ・キルラスカル様にご挨拶をいただきます。
Konnichiwa and Namaskara. Your Excellency, Ambassador C.B. George, members of the Indian Embassy present here, Executive Vice President Jetro and my friend Nakajo-san, Mr. Krishnan, Secretary, MITI, Government of India. On behalf of the Confederation of Indian Industry, I extend a warm welcome to all senior industry leaders at the seminar on Electronics Component Manufacturing Scheme. The seminar today is organized by CII in partnership with the Embassy of India, Tokyo, and Ambassador His Excellency Mr. C.B. George has supported us in various capacities through the years. We also thank the Indian Embassy for all their effort in partnering and greatly supporting this delegation and this visit to Japan. In the global rebalance, and we know what geopolitical tensions have caused this rebalance, India has continued to stay strong and demonstrated resilience. A lot of the global unrest and volatility India has been rather immune to. Of course, it has impacted the country, it's impacted consumption in our country, it's impacted the volume of investment that's coming in from different parts of the world, but I would say largely we have stayed resilient. The Indian economy, this reflects, continues to be the fastest growing large economy in 25-26, with real GDP forecasts at 6.2 and 6.3% respectively. In 2024-25, total exports reached USD 820 billion, registering a strong growth of 5.50%, reflecting India's expanding global trade footprint and competitive manufacturing capabilities. India, in its journey to becoming Viksit Bharat, from the feeble 5, now we are in the top 5. In fact, we've reached number 4 position, and it is estimated that in 28-29, we would become the number 3 economy in the world at about 5.86 trillion economy size. And it is expected Viksit Bharat targets to be 37 trillion by 2047. If you look at India, it has the largest youth population in the world and fastest growing, where I think more than 70% of our population, more than 50% of our population is less than 28 years old. We also have a very strong middle class. And these are the reasons why India is still one of the largest growing domestic consumption markets in the world. 432 million middle class in 2021, 715 expected in 2030-31, and by 2047, when we reach Viksit Bharat, more than 60% of our total multi-billion population will be the middle class. It is going to be the largest and the fastest growing middle class in the world, and we know that that is the class that really consumes the goods and services that we buy and sell. The government has shown great resolve However, I must say before I proceed that manufacturing, in order to be Viksit Bharat and we reach that goal of 37 trillion, manufacturing today contributes less than 18% to GDP. And in order to reach Viksit Bharat, it has to contribute more than 25%. So whilst this is a cause of current concern, it also presents a massive opportunity for manufacturing supply chains to now shift to India, especially given the geopolitics. The government has shown great resolve in initiating a series of measures, and they've all spoken about it, to advance Indian economy on both trade and investment front. The PLI schemes, National Logistics Policy, Foreign Trade Policy 2023, and FDI policy effectively strengthened and opened up our market to global companies, boosting industrial growth and positioning India as a major manufacturing hub globally. Specifically today at the seminar, industry on both sides will focus on the emerging collaboration opportunities between the two countries and deepen partnerships, and as Mr. Krishnan said, in one of the most critical manufacturing sectors, which is the electronic sector. We believe that these are some of the key areas where our partnership can shape global industry. The electronics manufacturing industry in India represents the most opportunity for Japanese enterprises. Electronic production has grown fourfold in the last decade and has reached US 115 billion now, mainly driven by the success of the PLI scheme in mobile phone manufacturing. It is also very heartening to note that we are in our 73rd year of successful and warm and cordial diplomatic relations between India and Japan. And because India and Japan share such a wonderful diplomatic relationship, it should be even easier to step up and get more aggressive on trade and business exchange now between the two countries. The time is right. And together, India and Japan could be a major manufacturing partnership power in the region, if I may say. A rapid rise in electronics manufacturing in India, led by exports and also the domestic market growth, is a key driver for high demand for electronic components. Further, India has ambitions of reaching US $1 trillion goods exports by 2030, in which electronics is considered as key performing sector with a target of US $240 billion exports. This is also a major factor driving electronics components in India, and the government is therefore putting a major thrust in promoting this. So I do hope that the seminar would result in more aggressive business, a more globally competitive supply chain out of India. I would like to end by saying what I say to every investor, especially in Japan, that the time is right, given our journey of Viksit Bharat, given the huge domestic consumption market, given the stable government with stable policy and a major thrust on promoting the India-Japan partnership in business, that you must view India now seriously as a long-term strategic investment, not as an opportunistic investment with a globally competitive export potential embedded. Thank you very much, and I wish the seminar great success. Domo arigatou gozaimashita. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your remarks. Next, I would like to request Mr. Nirmod Kumar, Director, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, to make a presentation virtually. 続きまして、インド電子情報技術省局長ニルモド・クマール様よりご講演いただきます。オンラインでのご講演となりますので、スクリーンをご覧くださいませ。
May I please share? Yeah. May I please share the PPT? While the PPT is being shared, as Krishnan sir, Secretary Mighty, His Excellency Mr. Siri George, Mr. Kazuyo Nakazu, Mrs. Gitanjali Kirloskar, Mr. Rajiv Goyal, Secretary Elsina, and Mr. Niket Pokle. Very good afternoon. It is my privilege to join all of you on the VC and discuss the electronics component manufacturing scheme, which is one of the important initiatives from the Government of India. This scheme aims at creating and building a robust and globally competitive electronics component manufacturing ecosystem. Government has brought out various policies and initiatives that have transformed India into one of the fastest growing electronics manufacturing destination in the world. If we take example in the last decade, in electronics and mobile manufacturing is significant. Like in last decade, our electronics production has grown sixfold, and export of electronics has grown at eightfold. In particular, in the mobile, the production has grown 27-fold, and the export for the mobile phone has grown 127-fold. So this is the scale in the electronics in India as on date. Next slide, please. To further broaden and deepen the electronics ecosystem in India in general and the electronics component ecosystem in particular, and to realize the Honorable Prime Minister's vision to produce $500 billion electronics goods by end of this decade, the electronics component manufacturing scheme has been notified on April 8th this year. Through this scheme and various initiatives, we want to increase our export by eightfold by end of this decade. And these initiatives will create about 6 million jobs. It also aims to increase the female labor force participation, and at the end we want to become the product nation. Next slide, please. Yeah. So this slide shows India's electronics manufacturing overview. We can see that from 2020-21, when we notify the PLI for large-scale electronics manufacturing, the electronics production growth is exponential. And we can see that in the last 4 years, the electronics production in India has doubled, while the demand of electronics goods has become double in 6 years. And in this particular year, has become, the electronics has become third largest export commodity from India, and we were at the 5th place last year. Next slide, please. Yeah. So the electronics component manufacturing schemes aims at to create robust component manufacturing ecosystem by attracting investment globally as well as domestically. Further, to increase domestic value addition and to integrate the domestic and global entity operating in India to global value chain. This scheme tenure is 6 years with 1 year gestation period. This gestation period is optional. The budget outlay for this 22,919 crore. This is $2.7 billion. And this scheme aims to attract the investment in the tone of $7 billion. It will produce about component about $57.7 billion worth. Directly and indirectly, we are aiming to produce component by end of this scheme about $150 billion by end of this decade. Next slide, please. Yeah. So this scheme is having mainly 3 components. One is which provides turnover link incentive. Second provides the capex incentive. And third part is there where we are providing turnover link incentive as well as the capex incentive. Further, these target segment has been bifurcated in the 4 parts. First part, which is A, which includes the sub-assemblies. Sub-assembly further having 2 parts like display module sub-assembly and camera module sub-assembly. Further, part B, which include non-assembly passive component, electromechanical, multi-layer PCB, lithium-ion cells, and enclosures for the mobile and IT hardware and related devices. The C part, which is HDI, AMSEPs, and flexible PCB and assembly passive component, it includes the capex incentive as well as the turnover link incentive. The first part, first 2 parts, A and B, is only having the turnover link incentive. The last part, that is the D part, it includes, it is not visible on the screen. It includes the supply chain for the parts and component which covers under category A, B, and C, and the capital equipment used in the electronics manufacturing, including their sub-assemblies and components. Further, to claim the incentive under this scheme, there is 3 criteria. First criteria, the company has to meet minimum investment, which is reflected against each and individual sub-assembly and component. And there is criteria with respect to the threshold on the sales they have to make yearly, and they have to produce the employment from their facilities. Only 3 criteria are there to claim the incentive from this scheme. So the incentive rate for the individual item is reflected against each item. For example, in the case of display assembly, it is ranging from 4% to 1% over the 6 years. Similarly, for the non-assembly passive components, the incentive rate is ranging from 8% in the first year to 4% in the 6th year. In the case of target segment C, which is item serial number 8 and 9, the turnover link incentive ranging from 8% to 4% for the SDI MSEPs and 5% to 3% for the assembly passive, along with the capex incentive of 25% on their investment. Next slide, please. Yeah. So this is the unique scheme where we are providing the hybrid incentive in the form of turnover link incentive as well as the capex incentive. And part of the incentive is also linked with the employment generation. This is the holistic scheme where we are incentivizing full supply chain, not only supply chain, along with the capital equipment, along with the sub-assemblies and component of those capital equipments. We are also, this is open for both the ESDM players as well as non-ESDM player. It provides opportunity to non-ESDM player also. So any investment which is coming from outside India can be come through the foreign direct investment route through the FDI policy, which is notified in the 2020 of the government of India. Next slide, please. Yeah. So as we discussed that both, ESDM sector players as well as non-ESDM sector players can participate in the scheme. The only requirement is, from the qualification point of view, is the either ESDM revenue or manufacturing revenue. The requirement of the ESDM and manufacturing revenue is indicated against each and individual component in subassembly. For example, in the case of display model subassembly, the ESDM revenue requirement is about $29 million, and for the manufacturing revenue requirement is $88 million. As we can see that the manufacturing revenue requirement is 3 times the ESDM revenue requirement. Further, the year for which this ESDM or manufacturing revenue to be considered is financial year 2023-24. But in the case of manufacturing revenue, the entity or the applicant has to submit a technical capability document. In the case of JV, the revenue will be calculated based upon the weighted average revenue as per the JV share. If the ESDM company holds majority stakeholder, in that case, the revenue will be considered as the ESDM revenue. Otherwise, it will be considered as the manufacturing revenue. In the case of manufacturing revenue, the firm has to submit the technical capability document to the ministry. So this is all about the qualification to a particular entity or applicant has to qualify. Next slide, please. Yeah. So last qualification criteria was for the 3 particular target segment that was covered in the A, B, C, where we are providing the turnover link incentive. For the supply chain ecosystem as well as the of parts and sub-assembly of capital equipments, the qualification criteria is linked with the net worth. The company has to just submit a net worth certificate saying that their net worth is more than 50% of the investment they want to make in India. Or in the case, if they are not having the net worth up to the 50%, in that case, they simply has to submit a board resolution confirming the investment and source of funding. That's all. So the qualification criteria in this scheme is very simple. You need not to submit, n number of documents. Next slide, please. Yeah. So the application window, as already discussed with the Secretary Sir, that the window has already been open since 1st March. And this window will remain open for the 3 months for turnover link incentive and the hybrid incentive. So turnover link incentive provided for the target segment A and B. We have discussed in the earlier slides. And the hybrid incentive has been given on the target segment C. The window will remain open for 3 months. For the capex incentive, which is for the supply chain ecosystem, as well as for the capital equipment and their parts, will remain open for the 2 years, and the application received under this category would be appraised on one basis. The address of online portal is ecms.meitymeti.gov.in. You may visit this portal and can apply for the registration, or after getting approval for the registration, you may apply for the scheme as such. Next slide, please. As we discussed, that total incentive outlay for the scheme is 22,805 crore, is equivalent to about $2.6 billion. It is kept aside for the target segment A, B, and C, which is for the turnover link incentive as well as the hybrid incentive, and this particular amount is fungible among the ABC. Further, we kept aside about $0.2 billion of amount for the target segment D for the supply chain as well as the capital equipment. I want to clarify that in due course of implementation of this scheme, based upon the performance, all the fund is fungible among each other. There is this incentive ceiling that a particular entity can claim up to 50% of total cumulative incremental eligible investment during this scheme period. The incentive will be provided on first come first serve basis for all the eligible incentive claims. This scheme also promotes localization by mandating certain manufacturing process localization. That's all. Further, this scheme would provide the performance review, and that will happen time to time. Next slide, please. Yeah. So application process under this scheme very simple. You have to register by providing the KYC. This KYC includes verification of CIN, LLPIN, PAN, and letter of authorization. That's all. Once this registration is done, then you have to submit application on the portal. All the document which need to be submitted on the for this application is available on the portal. After application, the document would be issued, and post acknowledgement, after a detailed review of application, the approval will be issued to the particular unit, and it will be communicated through the PMA or by the ministry as such. So the process is very simple, starting from the registration to the providing communication to the applicants. Next slide, please. And for the more information, you can visit the ECMS data.meti.gov.in. There is a dedicated telephone, that is +91 11 24 36 0886, and there is 2 email addresses like meti.gov.in and ecms.meti.gov.in. You can contact us at any point of time. Thank you very much. This is all about this scheme from my side.
Thank you, sir, for your presentation. Next, I would like to request Mr. Raju Goel, Secretary General, Electronic Industries Association of India, to make a presentation virtually. 続きまして、インドエレクトロニクス産業協議会事務局長、ラジュ・ゴエル様よりオンラインでご講演いただきます。スクリーンをご覧くださいませ。
Start now. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. I will just try to share the screen, please, of the presentation. I'm not able to see the thing on my screen. Can I? Okay, I have some little bit of updates here, but I'm sorry, but I don't know how I'm not able to. Okay, you are sharing it? Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Very good afternoon to everybody. I'm Raju Goel from Elsina. I hope you can see my screen, please. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So I'm from the Electronic Industries Association of India, and we are delighted to be here, and we thank the Embassy of Japan and CII and KPMG to invite us here for this program. We have been very closely associated with this scheme, and Electronic Industries Association of India, which is ELSINA, is focused on components manufacturing right from its inception in 1967. So this is actually the focus area where we have been serving the industry. I'm here basically, at the outset, of course, I would like to, thank all the speakers and especially, Excellency Ambassador Mr. George, Secretary Mr. Krishnan, Kazuyo Nakajo-san from JETRO, Mr. Sushil Pal and Mr. Nirbodh Kumar from MIT, and Mrs. Gitanjali Kirloskar, Chairperson CII, and my colleague Mr. Nikit Popli from KPMG. So thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm going to share a little bit of information about the overview of the present electronics industry in India and the impact on this industry of this scheme. So I can you move to the next slide, please? So this is a slide which I think Mr. Nirbodh Kumar also has shown to all of you, and this is the kind of growth that our industry is witnessing. What is really noteworthy in this is that this has our industry has been growing at a CAGR of 12% over the last decade, and we have increased our demand has increased at a CAGR of 12% from 62 billion to 196 billion in the current year, which is an estimate for the current year. While our production has been growing even faster at 16% CAGR, and it is now at 138 billion. We still have a lot of catching up to do, so there is a lot of opportunity here in manufacturing. One of the causes of concern, of course, is the high imports that we are dependent on. Of course, we know that this is this is an industry which is globally interconnected, and we cannot have 100% domestic production of everything, but still our import dependence remains very high, and our policies and schemes are basically targeted for reducing this this import dependence and making India a stronger and trusted partner for the world. The growth in exports has been sharper. We have been growing at about 20% CAGR over the same period, and we have achieved an impressive number of 38 billion. Of course, a very large share of this export is of mobile phones, which we are now manufacturing in the country. One of the areas of concern, of course, is the components ecosystem, and we still have a very small ecosystem of components, and the scheme is meant to really give impetus to this particular segment and grow the ecosystem for components in the country. So we have a very ambitious target of $500 billion by the year 2030 for electronics manufacturing, while for exports we are targeting over $210 billion. So this is a big growth path that we have to achieve, but this is what where we aspire to go. Next slide, please. These are some more details about the current industry in India. If you can see, the share of mobile phones is very large. It's almost 44-45% of the total production, while the next, of course, is consumer electronics and industrial electronics, and the other sectors are also kind of growing rapidly, but mobile phones has been the fastest growing sector over the last 5 to 6 years, especially I would say. Next slide, please. So these are some of the key demand drivers. This growth that we are talking about of achieving a $500 billion electronics industry in the country. The growth drivers for this are the overall, the overall economy, which is growing very rapidly. We all know that India is growing at 6 to 7%, GDP growth every year, and we are looking to become a $5 trillion economy very soon. So based on that, our target of $500 billion of electronics manufacturing has been set. If you will look at some of the numbers here, you can see that the areas which are driving this growth, if you look at them, are consumer electronics, where we have categorized mobiles, TV, and hardware, as well as durables and appliances and IT hardware. Of course, if you look at the mobility part, which is the automobile sector, this is another very big creator of value for electronics and for manufacturing. And the third is strategic electronics, where if you will see that medical electronics, which is not really very big right now, is expected to grow very rapidly. So we are looking at almost 10% of the electronics manufacturing would come from medical devices, which is an area of huge growth. Next slide, please. This is a slide which is a little dated. It actually shows some data from the year 2022-23. Why we are showing this slide to you is that there has been a very big demand and supply gap in the case of components market in the country, and we have been hugely dependent on imports. So what this slide is showing is that a huge number of components are being imported in the country, either as bare components, and what these numbers show is that out of our total demand for components, 23.2 billion are imported as bare components. 23.2 billion dollars. And if you add the components which are coming as PCB assemblies, then another 9.3 billion gets added to that, and the total imports were as high as 32.5 billion, which is 75% of the total component demand was being imported. And that is an area where ELCINA particularly, and our industry and government have been very keen that we need to, to strengthen this particular segment of ours, and the scheme is for that purpose. So you can see that, this is a huge opportunity in India and also for Japanese companies and for the global industry to come and to play in this area in India. So this was the trigger for the electronics component manufacturing scheme, which we are discussing today. Next slide, please. This is an analysis of the industry which Encina has done. And if you will look at the square in the table on the left side, the total, what our analysis was that in any equipment, 60% of the value comes from components and modules. 60% of the value comes from components, which include semiconductors. Further, if you break it down, then the 60%, 20% of the value is for semiconductors, while the remaining 40% is for the non-semiconductor items, which is what this particular scheme is going to address. So there is a huge requirement for the non-semiconductor passive components, PCB, electromechanical, long components, batteries, mechanics, display module, camera module, and the audio products and the speaker, microphone, and sensors. So this square is what this particular scheme is looking at, and it is also shown as a pie chart on the right side, which shows that the passive components, PCB, electromechanical, has a huge share of 15.5%, or almost 1/3 of this. So this is basically a slide which is telling us what is the segment of components that we are addressing here in this scheme. Next slide, please. Okay, we will be briefly. I will briefly just share this slide. This is of course covered in the scheme, and this is the target or the expected outcome of the ECMS scheme. So the scheme provides a funding of 2.7 billion. It is expected to create direct employment of 91,000 plus direct employees, investment of 7 billion, and production of 53.7 billion. So this is the outcome that we were expecting, and of course we believe that this will strengthen our industry. It will strengthen our supply chain. It will make us a player in the global value chain, and hopefully it will also enhance our global competitiveness. So that is the basic objective and outcome of the scheme, and I think this is going to create a domino effect and create growth for the long run. Next slide, please. This is an analysis that we had done. The numbers here are larger, but this is also the impact that Encina had calculated that the scheme would have. Of course, the numbers here are larger, and we had proposed a $8.5 billion incentive. But of course, this is just a number. What we were trying to show was that by the year 2030, the components demand would be, components and modules, etc., would be 300 billion out of 500. And, about 248 billion of that, a huge share would be imported if we do not, incentivize component manufacturing. And on the right side, what we are showing is that once we, provide the necessary incentives to this, to this industry, we can reduce this import from 248 billion to 102 billion. This was a calculation which we had done, and this was basically for the non-semiconductors, items, for the non-semiconductor components and modules. So this is also, just to show you the kind of impact that we are expecting from this scheme. Next slide, please. I now would like to, this is my second last slide, where we would like to share some of the key areas where Japanese companies can have a play in this,
in most of these areas, there is a huge demand in India, and we need, overseas investors. We need Japanese investors. Particularly, we are aware that Japan is very strong in the surface mount device, components. They are very strong in PCBs, especially in the high-end PCBs. Of course, also in the modules, the high-end modules which are used for mobiles, for security equipment, for automobiles, and so on and so forth. So I think you can see this, that these are the areas where Japanese companies can have a big play in India, and we would be happy to provide you further guidance on this for your benefit and for the benefit of the Indian industry, and to be a trusted partner for you. Next slide, please. Okay, this is my last slide, and this also we have taken from an analysis done by Invest India. This is basically the landscape of the electronics industry in the country today, and this slide shows in which areas, which are the key companies which are already existing and they are manufacturing and they have got their ecosystems there. So as you can see, a large number of global companies are there in India. From the top, you can see TDK, My Idea, Delta, LG, Samsung. Then for the semiconductors part, of course, we know that there are companies like PSMC, Micron. But now we have Tata's, so on and so forth. In EMC, EMS companies, we have a huge number of companies here. The top companies are here from Taiwan, also from America, and I believe also from Japan. There are a few companies operating here in the EMS space. So I would that this is a broad ecosystem around the country, and there are several estates where Japanese companies are there already in India. Our ambassador mentioned that there are, I think, more than 1,500 Japanese companies already in India. So, which is a big success story for the Japanese, and we are trusted partners, and we look forward to supporting you. And we are open to any questions and any more information you would like from us. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your presentation. Next, I would like to request Mr. Nikit Popli, partner KPMG incentive team, to make a presentation on how states in India will anchor industries under ECMS. 続きまして、KPMG インセンティブチームパートナーニキット・ポプリ様より、インドの各州はどのように電子部品製造スキームの下で産業を育成するかについてご講演をいただきます。
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank His Excellency Shri George, Honorable Secretary MITI Shri S. Krishnan, Director MITI Shri Nirmod Kumar, CII Co-Chair Japan Shri Mati Gitanjali Kirloskar, and the distinguished guests. Many of the speakers prior to me have spoken a lot on the ECMS and the electronic component manufacturing ecosystem in India. Can I have my slides on, please? Yeah. Can you go to the next slide? The next one. Yeah. So, like many of my colleagues shared, that in last 10 years, the electronic manufacturing ecosystem in India has grown multiple times to about 115 billion in 2024, and it is expected to grow to $500 billion in 2030. Out of this, the share of electronic component demand would be approximately $245 billion by 2030, which is right now about $58 billion. So there will be a multiple
increase in the demand, which will be approximately 5 times from what it is now to what it will be in 2030. And like the Honorable Secretary Meety said, the reason for this is that we have built the peripheries and now we are building the core. So in last few years, we have seen an increase in the production of finished electronic products, and one of the reasons for that has been various PLI schemes that have been launched in India, be it the PLI scheme for mobile phone manufacturing, the IT hardware, some of the automotive electronics, the consumer electronics. So with all of that, in last 5 to 6 years, we have seen a multiple increase in the electronics finished goods manufacturing, but at the same time, we saw an increase in the importation of the components because of the production of the finished goods. Now, to build the core, which is the components, the MeitY, which is Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, has now introduced a scheme specifically targeting the electronic component manufacturing ecosystem in India. Now, what also has MeitY done is that they have focused on few of the target segments, few of the focused areas. Now these, like Mr. Nirmod Kumar in his presentation mentioned, these are bare components, selected bare components, supply chain ecosystem and capital equipment. So I'm not going in too much detail about that. But what I want to highlight here is that the PLI and ECMS like schemes have given the scale for manufacturing of electronics, finished products and components in India. What would also be important to understand that how the state governments in India are also supporting these kind of manufacturing ecosystem in India. Can we move to the next slide, please? So largely the India's electronic ecosystem is spread across the following states. In the NCR region, which is Delhi, Uttar Pradesh, Haryana, there would be some bit of electronics manufacturing, specifically on the mobile phone. You will see in Uttar Pradesh. You will see manufacturing in the peninsular India, which is Maharashtra, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. That's the peninsular India, which is surrounded by the water. So you will always have the proximity to the port. So this is where the electronics manufacturing ecosystem largely is, but there is a bit of manufacturing in different pockets in India, spread across India. Can we move to the next slide? Now this is largely what I want to talk about today. If you see, as a thumb rule, be it PLI, be it ECMS, or be it any scheme of the central government, as a thumb rule, typically you would be able to claw back 35% to 50% of your overall investment through the scheme, through the government scheme. We have seen that happening in PLI scheme. We have seen that happening in ISM, which is India Semiconductor Mission. And now in the ECMS also, if you go in the detailed calculations of the ECMS scheme, you will see that one would be able to claw back 35 to 50% of their investment through these incentives from the central government, right? Now this is one. Now this is the base layer of the incentive, let me call it like that. Now once you have these incentives, you will also, in addition to this, get certain incentives from the state government. I'll come to that in detail, but when you are making an investment in a particular state in India, all the state would have an industrial policy, or in most of the states now, we see specific thrust or priority to the electronic manufacturing, and hence you get an additional incentive if you are making an investment in electronics or its component space in any of the states in India, wherein the incentives in addition to the central government that you can get from the state would be approximately 45 to 55% of your investment. It can be higher also. What the state governments in India do is that if your project qualifies as a mega project would depend upon the state where you are making the investment, even within the state, the region in which you are making the investment. If your project qualifies as a mega project, the state governments also give you a customized or a tailor-made benefit. So this benefit from the state, while an average is 45 to 55%, but it can be much higher as well. For few of our clients, they've been able to claw back entire 100% from the state itself, right? So, but on an average, let us assume it to be 45 to 55%. Now, this is the second layer of incentive, as I call it. Now, the third layer of incentives, when you are in the capex stage, you would typically have a lot of importation of capital goods, equipment, etc. in India. And when you are making that capex investment in India, the Indian government would give you certain customs and other tax related benefits when you are in the capex or an investment stage. Now, here you can save, say, about 15 to 30% of your project cost through these customs and GST or tax-based incentives. Now, overall, if you see, if you're making an investment in electronic component space in India right now, you can claw back somewhere around, say, 80 to 120% of your investment back from the government over a period of time, right? And like Mr. Krishnan mentioned, that these incentives are not only for the existing players, but also for people who are wanting to relocate their manufacturing from elsewhere to India, considering the geopolitical situations, considering your future plans. If you want to make an investment into India in this space, the time is now, because right now at least the base layer is there. Other than the base layer, the other incentives remain there, but the base layer incentive is there, which is the electronic components manufacturing scheme, which is a time-bound scheme. So if you want to make an investment into India and you are seriously considering that, then this is the right time to make that. If your products are in the eligible category, think through this, simulate your benefits from the government, see if there is a possibility of getting higher or a tailor-made benefits from the government. If there is, then you need to plan it accordingly, select the location. If you are already in some existing locations, see if you can get some benefits in your existing locations also. So, considering all of this, you can get, like I said, about 120% of your investment back over a period of time. Can we move to the next slide, please? Now, focusing on the state level incentives. Now, how does the state level incentives work? Now, every state has a certain specific industrial policy or an electronics policy, right? Now, in these policies, the benefits can be of multiple types. First benefit that I'm talking about is a capital linked incentive or a capital subsidy. Now, what is a capital subsidy or a capital linked incentive? A capital linked incentive or a capital subsidy is like a cashback. You invest 100, government will give you, say, 20, 30, 40, whatever that percentage is, back over a period of time in say, equal installments. Second is a turnover linked incentive. Now, what are turnover linked incentives? Turnover linked incentives are very simple. Whatever incremental turnover you achieve, you will get a turnover linked incentive. You will get a percentage of your turnover back from the government. Now, this turnover linked incentive or a capital linked incentive will be over and above of what you get from METI under the ECMS scheme. This is the state government that I'm talking about, right? These are the major ones. In addition to that, there will be incentives which are linked to your payroll, which are linked to your expenses on electricity, power, water, etc., which you can also get back from the government. But in that overall design of all these incentives, the major one would come from three aspects: capital linked incentives, tax linked incentives, and turnover linked incentives. This is where the main kitty is, or the main meat is. In terms of various states where these kind of incentives are available, these are, say, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh, Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Telangana, and Odisha. these are the key states where electronic manufacturing ecosystem is there. But like I said, even in the other states, we would see some bit of investment in pockets. Some like Mr. Raju Goel had shown in his slide. There are various companies, various Japanese companies as well, located in various parts of India. But if you are location agnostic right now, it is good to compare all these states and see which one would suit your requirement, and then select a state. One of the selection criteria, like I said, can be incentives. What incentives are offered by the government of that particular state? Yeah. Can we move to the next slide? Yeah. Next, please. I'm not spending too much time because already Mr. Nirmod Kumar and Secretary Meety has spoken about it. But like Mr. Krishnan said, this is not something new for Meety, which is Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. They were in fact one of the first ministries to have introduced incentives as a concept in India. In 2012, they came up with the first scheme, which was MSIPS, followed by a scheme called SPECS in 2020. Then PLI for large-scale electronics manufacturing, 21. They came up with a telecom manufacturing PLI, then IT hardware, then ECMS, which is currently there. So if you see in the entire life cycle of incentives, it started with finished goods as a focus, and now it is zeroing down to the core, which is the component manufacturing ecosystem in India. Next slide, please. In addition to that, India also introduced India Semiconductor Mission some time back, and right now the window for this is closed, but there will be a second tranche for this, where the government is giving up to 50% fiscal, again Meety is giving up to 50% fiscal support on semiconductor fabs, display fabs, designs, and compound and discrete semiconductor silicon photonics, sensors, fabs, ATMP, OSAT units. This was there in the first tranche of the scheme. We are yet to see what would be the second tranche of the scheme, but in the first tranche, it was a very successful scheme. We saw a lot of applications going for it. Yeah, can we move to the next slide? I'm not spending any time on this because this has already been discussed by my fellow speakers, so we'll skip that. Can we move to the next slide? Yeah. So again, this has been discussed, so I'm not spending. Next slide, please. Yeah. So some of the structures which you can follow can be a Japanese company having an Indian subsidiary in India. This is the first structure, 100% Indian company owned by a Japanese company. Second, what we are seeing very commonly is a JV, where a Japanese company and an Indian company coming together, forming a JV and applying for the schemes and the benefits and doing manufacturing in India. Third is a technical collaboration, where the Japanese company would give the technical know-how to the Indian manufacturers, and they would enter into a license agreement for the right to use technology. This is the third structure that we are seeing in India. But most commonly that we are seeing is option number 2, which is a JV formation between a Japanese company and an Indian company. Yeah. Next slide, please. I'm not going in detail in this, but just as a last minute listing, for any kind of change in the shareholding, the scheme does not have any impact, but it needs to be informed to the PMA, which is Project Management Agency, or the Meety. If there is a successor in interest, then also PMA or the governing council under the scheme needs to be intimated. If there are related party transactions, they have to be at arm's length, and again, it has to be intimated to the government in case there are related, because the incentives would be computed on turnover, so the turnover has to be on arm's length, and hence an intimation needs to be filed with the nodal ministry, which is Ministry of Electronics. Yeah, can we move to the next slide, please? Yeah, so that is it from my side. But like I said, the time to come to India for electronic component manufacturing scheme is now, and India would want to welcome all Japanese companies with open arms. And with this, I would wish a successful event further. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your presentation. Next, I would like to request Mr. Kenji Sugino, Secretary General, Japan Chamber of Commerce and Industry in India, to make a presentation virtually. 続きまして、インド商工会事務局長杉野健二様よりオンラインで講演をいただきます。
Am I audible now? Yeah. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to begin by expressing my heartfelt thank you for the opportunity to speak at this important seminar on the ECMS. It is truly an honor to represent JCCII here today. I'd like to take this opportunity to sincerely thank His Excellency Mr. Sibi George, Ambassador of India to Japan, for his continued effort to strengthen the relationship between our two countries. Mr. Kazuya Nakajo, Executive Vice President of JETRO, for his tireless support in promoting bilateral economic and industrial cooperation. Mr. Shishir Pal, Joint Secretary as the Minister of Electric and Information Technology, Government of India, for his leadership in advancing India electric manufacturing ecosystem. Mrs. Gitanjali Kirloskar, Co-Chair of the Japan Council at CII and Chairperson and Managing Director of Kirloskar System, for her invaluable role in building India-Japan business partnership. Thank you all for your kind present and support today. May I continue in Japanese from here? 活動であるとか、業界横断の委員会活動、あとはインド政府に対するビジネス環境活動などを有しているため、2006年にデリー日本商工会からインド日本商工会に名称を変更いたしました。インドにはですね、他にチェナイとバンガロールにも商工会があるんですが、基本的には別々に活動しておりまして、ただ先ほど申したようなビジネス環境改善活動等については一緒に活動しているということでございます。インド日本商工会の特徴を申し上げますと、大使館さん、ジェトロさん、JBIX さん等のですね、税機関の多大なる支援を受けているということが言えるかというふうに思っております。我々ですね、重点テーマとして全インドの取り組み強化ということと、今年から新規進出支援を重点テーマとして掲げております。こちらシビジョージ大使から昨年8月にですね、訪問した際にリクエストをいただいたことも踏まえてですね、新たに、活動を始めております。で、我々5つの重点テーマがございますので、5本柱、活動の5本柱がございますので、こちらに沿って説明させていただきます。まず3木会です。毎月第3木曜日に開催していることから、この名前がついております。こちらの写真のようにですね、インド大使館の公邸をお借りして100名ぐらいのリアルの参加者と、オンラインの参加者が約150名ぐらいということで、毎月実施しております。 冒頭の大使からのですね、1ヶ月間の政治経済がどういう動きであったかということに加えて、毎月講演をいただいております。これは昨年度講演いただいた中のベスト5を並べております。第1位はですね、アジアワーウィズの久保先生で、20年間インドに関わっている先生で、この先生の方からですね、多くの企業が ASEAN、シンガポールだったりバンコクからですね、ぶら下がりでインドを見ているケースが多いんですが、インドマーケットが大きくなっている。またですね、インドマーケットは独特のところがあるということで、本社直轄にして、さらなる拡大を目指すべきだというような提案をいただいたというのがナンバー1でした。続いてナンバー5ですが、サントリーの浦上さんという方にですね、こちら一回ソフトドリンクでインドに進出したんですが、なかなかうまくいかず、再度ウイスキーで再挑戦をしてうまくいった。それどうやったらうまくいったのかというお話をいただいてきました。サントリーの中で唯一海外で醸造しているウイスキーはインドにしかございません。続いて部会委員会エリア社長会です。我々の中にはですね、30のですね、業界別の部会分科会と業界横断の委員会がございます。こちらの各組織はですね、大体30名から40名ぐらいで構成されておりまして、この中で業界固有の情報交換であるとか、業界固有の課題をですね、提案して今後のビジネス環境改善につなげていくというふうな活動を続けております。こちらですね、先ほど申しましたシビジョージ大使からのリクエストを受けて始まった新規進出企業支援委員会でございます。ジェトロさんが各県に事務所をお持ちだということ、あと MOU を結んでいる日本の各自治体とインドの各自治体が結んでいる MOU を結んでいる自治体と、あと地方銀行さんですね、こちらと連携をしてですね、まずインドを知ってもらう、見てもらう、進出を検討してもらう、最終的に進出してもらうというふうな4つのステップでですね、支援をしていきたいというふうに思っております。続きまして、こちら半導体委員会でございます。こちら昨年の4月に立ち上げました。日本企業がインドにおける半導体委員会のサプライチェーンに支援をするということを目的に始まりました。現在会員数は半導体委員会は135社というふうになっておりまして、インド進出以外の企業も約30社ご参加いただいているということでございます。こちらNICDC というインドの開発公社があるんですが、こちらに JBIC さんが 25% の出資をしているということも含めて、JBIC さんが事務局になってですね、大使館さん、ジェトロさん、JICA さんと一緒になってやっているということでございます。ちなみにこちらの NICDC が運営しているドレラ工業団地だったり、あとアッサムの工業団地にですね、今後半導体の集積地ができるということで、このような取り組みを進めている状況でございます。毎回の半導体委員会の中ではですね、こちらのタタさんであるとか CG セミさんであるとか、あとインドの IT 省の方だとか、関係各社の方にご参加いただいて情報提供いただいたり、ネットワーキングを進めているということでございます。ちなみに明日のですね、日本時間の13時半から16時まで、こちらで半導体委員会の第6回目が行われますので、もしよろしければ参加いただければというふうに思っております。申し込み方法等は後ほどご案内させていただきます。続けて半導体委員会の中でやっているドレラ工業団地の視察ツアーでございます。すでに6回実施しております。ごめんなさい、これ間違っておりますが、第7回目が7月9日、10日で実施される予定でございます。こちらも申し込み方法と別途ご案内できればというふうに思っております。ちなみにアッサムの方にも昨年1回ツアーを実施しているという状況にございます。こちらはですね、今年の5月に半導体委員会でアンケートを取った結果です。第1位が通関への対応ということで、もともとビス規制だとかですね、税金の通関時の税金の問題ともろもろ問題があるんですが、半導体においてはやはり最大の問題になるだろうと、ルールの問題だったり、通関のインフラの脆弱さといった問題があるかというふうに思っています。第2位はタイムラインの不透明さということで、後工程部分はかなり順調に進んでいるというふうなところがあるんですが、前工程についてはいつ始まるのかというところが、不透明なところがあるということで第2位になったのかなというふうに思っています。それから第3位の住環境であるとか社会インフラの部分につきましては、どれら工業団地新たに開発されているところですので、こういった環境の整備が必要だというふうにということで第3位になったかというふうに思っています。それから第4位は見ていただければというふうに思います。 思います。こういった課題についてですね、すでに半導体委員会として、グジャラート州政府であるとか、インド政府に対してですね、提言をさせていただいておりますし、今後も対話を通じてですね、環境改善を図っていきたいというふうに思っております。続いてビジネス環境改善でございます。こちら2009年から毎年実施しておりますが、2022年の3月にですね、岸田首相がお越しいただいた際に、5兆円の日本からの投資を両国で合意いたしました。その際にですね、日本政府の方からビジネス環境改善が必須であるということで、FTM という日印政府間の会議体ができました。こちらがですね、JBIC さんのアンケートで、こちらインド、ベトナム、アメリカ、インドネシア、タイと比較してですね、この黄色い部分がインド政府だったり州政府が関わる課題ということで、インドの中ではですね、法制の運用が不透明ということだったり、インフラの整備が、不十分であるということだったり、税制システムが複雑ということで、こちらの黄色いところ、インド政府に関わるところが多いというところが特徴かというふうに思っております。こちらが先ほどの部会委員会の中で提案をしているビジネス環境改善提案書の中身と件数でございます。こちらは参照いただければというふうに思います。続いてこれは過去にですね、ビジネス環境改善をしている中で改善に及んだ大きな課題ということで、2019年には配当分配税の廃止ということで、こちらは日系企業の連結財務に50億円ぐらいのプラスの効果があったんじゃないかということでございます。そして2022年には原産地証明、新たなカロタールの2020というのが始まりまして、こちらでですね、デポジットを積んだりですね、ちょっと、FTA の適用を諦めて税金を払ったりということで8億円ぐらいが悪影響あったんですが、こちら3分の2ぐらいは取り返せたかなというふうに思っています。で、直近でいきますと23年からビスの問題がずっと続いてきているんですけれども、先週の金曜日にですね、住居省から出されていた OTR の2024という非常に大きな課題があったんですが、こちらの課題については延期の通達がございました。こちらについては在日インド大使館の守備ジョージ大使にも支援いただきました結果というふうに思っております。感謝申し上げます。一方でまだまだこれからルールは、はっきりしてない部分がございますので、引き続き協議をしていきたいというふうに思っております。こちらがですね、ビジネス環境改善提案書の会議体でございます。我々が独自で出していくところ、多くはこの FTM という政府間の協議体の中で取り扱っていただいているということだったり、あと個別企業のお困りごともですね、我々の方では受け取って協議をしているという状況にございます。で、続いて、コミュニケーション手段ということで、我々ホームページがございまして、こちらにはですね、過去の参目会の講演であるとか、あと駐在 GST って大きな問題があったんですが、そういった問題の、過去の歴史なんかを振り返れるような歴史会員制のページで設けております。また毎週1回ニュースレターをお送りしておりまして、こちらの方では会員さんだったり、あと政府の情報なんかを配信させていただいているという状況にあります。最後にですね、組織の拡大のところです。これ我々、この縦棒がですね、会員数です。インドはですね、1982年に鈴木さんが進出されたところが、1980年代が第一次投資ブーム。1990年に資本主義経済に変わったところで第二次ブーム。2003年にブリックスレポートが出されて第三次ブーム。で、2022年の秋ぐらいからですか、コロナの規制がなくなってから第4次ブームになっておりまして、2020年、23年と毎年50社の新規入会がございました。昨年については67社の新規入会。今年についてはこの C5、6月だけですでに50社の入会をいただいていまして、引き続き第4次日本からインドへの投資ブームは続くかなというふうに思っております。こちらが2022年の4月以降に新規進出された企業さんの業界別の割合です。製造業が4割ぐらいです。従来は6割ぐらいございましたので若干減っておりますが、絶対数については変わりございません。どこが伸びているかといいますと、こちらのサービス業でして、コンサルだとか会計事務所、弁護士事務所、あ あと日本人向けの各種サービスです。こういったところが激増しております。非常にいい傾向かなというふうに思っておりまして、おそらく中小企業さんが、日本語だけで仕事していきたいっていうところにもですね、ニーズにも応えられるような状況になっているかなというふうに思っております。この資本金の資格を押しますとですね、大手企業の割合が2020年4月以降は減っておりまして、むしろ中小企業さんの進出が増えていると、こういった状況になっております。この4月現在、我々は世界の商工会の中でですね、第9位だったんですが、現在612社ということで、第8位になったかなというふうに思っております。このままですね、毎年40から50ペースで伸びていきますと、5年後にはですね、ベトナムのハノイ商工会並みの規模になることが予定されております。ベトナムのハノイはですね、ベトナムの首都にありまして、本社機能が多く、周辺に製造業があるということだったり、ビジネス環境改善活動が活発ということで、我々としてはベンチマークしてですね、こういった、商工会になっていきたいなというふうに思っているところでございます。最後にこちら入会金のご案内でございます。本邦親会社の資本金と現地従業員数で決まります。で今年の4月からインドに進出してない企業さんも進出いただけるようになりました。そういった意味では、インド未進出企業さんにつきましては、こちらの従業員数は20人未満でカウントいただければということで、C だとか F だとか I、もしくは J がカテゴリーになってきます。詳しくはこちらのリンクの方をご覧いただければというふうに思います。で最後にですね、こちら上のところはもう説明させていただきましたので、私の連絡先、メールアドレスを載せておりますので、こちらに、何か問い合わせだったり、明日のセミナーだったり、ドレラツアーに参加したい方はいただければと思いますし、こちら QR コードを読み込んでいただければ、問い合わせフォームに取りますので、こちらの方から、ご連絡いただいても結構でございます。私の方からは以上でございます。ありがとうございました。
杉野様、ありがとうございました。以上をもちまして、本日のイベント、電子部品製造スキームセミナーを終了とさせていただきます。ご参加いただきましてありがとうございました。We will now conclude the seminar on Electronic Component Manufacturing Scheme, ECMS today. Thank you very much for your participation. この後、ネットワーキングセッションをこの会場を出てすぐのホイヤーで開